San Diego, California, a coastal city nestled in the southwest corner of the United States, historically almost discovered by Daxi's father Vita's bearing for the Russians, had he not gone mad in Alaska. Instead, it was to be discovered by Juan Cabrillo and claimed for Spain. In 1821, San Diego became part of the newly declared Mexican Empire until California was conquered by the United States in 1848, following the Mexican-American War, and was admitted to the Union as a state in 1850. San Diego would grow to become America's finest city, home of the famous San Diego Zoo, Balboa Park, SeaWorld, the Hotel del Coronado, home and training center of the U.S. Marine Corps, and of the Navy SEALs, of the best tacos and margaritas the world over, and the birthplace of 8-Bit Boss. But you won't find any statues or memorials of 8-Bit here, because this is not a where our story begins story. This is a how, and the how is with an Atari 2600. Born in 1971, 8-Bit grew up an only child. Soon after his birth, he would lose his mother in a tragic kitchen accident when she would choke while sampling one of her infamously dry chocolate chip cookies. His father, Mr. Boss, would be left to raise him alone. However, Levi Boss was far too preoccupied with his work, leaving poor 8-Bit buried in his Atari 2600 for most of his impressionable childhood, longing for attention and for his mother, lost to him so long ago. As he and the world around him grew, he would discover a love of all things gaming. The Commodore 64 home computer, the Nintendo Entertainment System, the N64, early PCs, and then of course the internet. His longing for attention would serve him well, as we all know, and combined with his passion for gaming, he would develop the worldwide phenomenon known to all of us as Game Night. An empire that would span movies and theme parks, a line of soft drinks and merchandise, and at its core, a nightly online streaming adventure that would unite the entire globe and bring, for the first time in recorded history, a real and lasting world peace. Fan mail poured in, among them a special package that contained an Atari 2600. But this was no ordinary Atari 2600. The message attached claimed it was a time machine. Fitted with its original paddles, a rotation to the right would send him forward in time. A rotation to the left, back in time. He thought on it and developed a clever idea. He would return to 1965, give his young mother a decent cookie recipe that he found on the dark web, and save her life. He strapped it on, and with a twist of his wrist, he vanished. Born in 1980, 8-Bit grew up with one older brother, as seen here in this eerie photograph taken on his 5th birthday, but his older brother grew up to develop special needs. It is said that his mother had been unknowingly serving him cookies, laced with PCP, from an old recipe she had been given by a stranger in the 1960s. This left Mrs. Boss far too exhausted and preoccupied, taking care of the elder son's needs, to ever consider having any more children, and far too busy to show 8-Bit much attention. Instead, he escaped into video games. His first love was the Atari 2600 and the game, Adventure, which he would occasionally play with his brother. This developed into a passion. With his best mate Daxi, whom it would be discovered grew up without his father, they would come together and develop a rather successful streaming platform followed by millions of devoted fans, known as Game Night. As their popularity rose, so did the volume of fan mail. Among that mail, a special package arrived that contained an Atari 2600. But this was no ordinary Atari 2600. The message attached claimed it was a time machine. He thought long and hard on it, and developed a clever idea. He decided he would return to 1965 and give his young mother a decent cookie recipe in hopes to save his brother's life. And then he would go even further back in time, to 1740, and meet Vitus Bering, supplying him some citrus fruit so he would not go mad with scurvy, hoping that Daxi could grow up with his father. 8-Bit strapped on the time machine, and with a twist of his wrist, he vanished. 1974. Port Stalin, California. Western port of the glorious motherland of the Soviet Union. Born third and final sanctioned child of the boss family, 8-Bit would rise within the party to become a promising servant of the KGB propaganda arm, teamed up with his comrade Daxi Bering from Horsens, Russia, son of famous Russian explorer of the entire west coast of North America, Vitus Bering. Together they developed Game Night, which became the most popular show in the Soviet world over, because we forced you to watch it. Slowly we learned of 8-Bit's hidden and dastardly desires for independence and freedom, and of the brutal claims young Daxi reported he suffered as a child at the hands of his heroic father. As our hearts broke, their infamy rose, and so did the volume of hate mail. However, among that hate mail, a special package that contained an Atari 2600. But this was no ordinary Atari 2600. The message attached claimed it was a time machine. He thought on it and developed a ludicrous idea. Without permission from the state, the fugitive 8-Bit sought to travel back and sabotage the voyage of Vitus Bering. By releasing a pack of ravenous hyena onto Kodiak Island and prevent the spread of the motherland across the globe, 8-Bit strapped on the time machine, and with a twist of his wrist, he vanished. 1984. San Diego, California, Mexico. Discovered by Spanish explorer Juan Cabrillo, by 1821, San Diego became part of the newly declared Mexican Empire. Secured against the rising threat of the Imperial United States, with financial support of the Asian Empire of China, California would remain cemented forever within the Mexican Empire and become birthplace of Senior 8-Bit, Jefe, in 1984. Ocho was the last brother of a large, healthy Catholic Latino familia and often speaks of feeling lost and ignored in the daily turmoil of the large familia's activity. Ocho found escape in his Atari 2600, where he developed a passion for video games and tacos. This passion would serve Ocho well. His sweatlord savagery in video games would get him noticed on an international level. Raging sweatlord Ocho met and perfectly paired with his sad and passive Chinese partner Daxi, who as a child had lost his father to a terrible wilderness excursion in the Kodiak Islands, involving a ravenous pack of hyena. The two of them, sad little Daxi and savage 8-Bit Jefe, would build the international video game streaming giant we all have come to know as Game Night. Fan mail poured in. Among them, a special package that contained an Atari 2600, but this was no ordinary Atari 2600. The message attached claimed that it was a time machine. He thought on it and developed a simple idea. He would travel back in time so as to help his sad friend. He would find and dope up this pack of hyena with XTC so as to pacify them and save Vitus Bering's life, so that Daxi could know a life with his padre. He strapped on the machine, and with a twist of his wrist, he vanished. 1974. San Diego, California. America's finest city and birthplace of 8-Bit boss. Raised in a happy family of 4 brothers, a loving mother, and a hard-working father who afforded his children all the newest toys of the 1980s. Among them, an Atari 2600. 8-Bit found a passion for video games. The boss family strongly believed in a good education and a well-rounded life of sports and activity, too much for 8-Bit's taste, to be honest, for he longed to just play games, and such things tore him away. He would, however, attend college, train in the production of movies and television, and travel the world making motion pictures. This opportunity exposed him to people who amassed fame, and he worked with the poorest of the poor, as well as the world's wealthiest people. What he discovered was that under all that facade, such high pursuits, even when attained, were ultimately unfulfilling. No amount of success could buy you more time. A common denominator run through them all, which was that happiness was simple, for everyone. Love and friends, and play while you still could. Live without fear, and let your heart guide your actions. he left the industry and returned to California. He would hire an inexperienced PR team, launch a small and otherwise not noteworthy gathering of dear friends that he would call Game Night. Together with his younger brother Netero and his mates Daxi, Warhawk, Miles, as well as the occasional guest appearances of a cast of wild characters, 8-Bit finally felt fulfilled. Once asked, did it matter that Game Night was not some smashing worldwide phenomenon? No. We don't have to deal with all that troublesome fan mail. It's better this way. Happiness was not bought with materialism or by the recognition of strangers after all. Happiness is breaking out of the mundane weekly grind and spending a few hours with the ones you love. We may not know exactly when in the world 8-Bit can be found today, but there is one mystery we have answered, that if you wish to catch a fleeting glimpse, and it's a Tuesday, look to the horizon at 7, because it means one thing, and one thing for sure, it's fucking game night.
It's Fukin game night.